Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to episode number 30?
Oh, 31.
31 of the Note Closers Show. Hey, Happy New Year to everybody. I know it's everybody's, for most of the country, it's everybody's first day back at the office, so hopefully you don't have a case of the Mondays on Tuesday. Today's topic is all about your market. All right, and so what I would really like for you to do, if you're watching this, let me know where you're located. Just tell me what state. Just a quick, hey, I'm in Ohio, or I'm in Florida, or I'm in California. We always like to get an idea of where everybody's at, too, because we're starting to test some ideas of what time of the day we should do this to hit the biggest bang for the buck, for what people like. You know, we don't want to do it so early on the East Coast where the West Coast is asleep, but we also want to do it late on the West Coast where people on the East Coast are busy at work or doing other things. So we're here to really give you guys some ideas on your market today. And so let us know what state you're in, and that'll help us with a little bit of what we're doing. But it's all about markets. What states should you be investing in? What are you focused on? Because markets are, more than just, I invest in Detroit or I invest in Columbus. It all comes down to what you are focused on, specifically on the paper game with the niches. Now, we've carved out our niche in the non-performing note side of investing in just non-performing firsts. I don't buy seconds. I rarely buy a performing first. My goal is to rehab the borrower when I buy a non-performing note, a non-performing first, and turn that into a reperforming asset so the returns are through the roof. Because if you can pick up a non-performing asset at 50% of value, and the note's written at 8%, well, you got a 50% discount there, which means double return if you get them to reinstate their 8%. It's like you're making 16%. Plus, going to put some skin in the game. Hey, you're sitting really good at a 20%, which is what we're looking for, right, everybody? Mm-hmm. If that doesn't work to rehab the borrower, then you foreclose, deed in lieu, cash for keys, take the property back in some sort of fashion, and then sell it as an REO, or keep it as a rental if you want to do that, or offer owner financing and create your own paper. That's completely fine. But a lot of people have different niches. Some people want to go after performing notes, which is completely fine. If you're a performing note investor, hey, I got one available in Chicago, Illinois for you. Guys paying very strongly, roughly about a 13-14% yield to your on a great little duplex, Bronson duplex that you can pick up for about $90,000. So if you're interested, let me know. Be glad to get the details over to you on that one in Illinois. But if you're looking for a performing note, say great. Then you're looking for probably something that's been paying for 10 to 12 months on time, is looking at somewhere around a 12 to 15% yield. That's what most hedge fund sellers of performing or reperforming notes are going to look at. They're going to look at selling it at a yield in the early double digits. They're not going to sell you a reperforming note at a 20% yield. Why would they give away that type of return? They're just not going to do that. For those of you that are invested in seconds, I'm sorry, just don't see a lot of seconds out there. Not trying to disappoint anybody, but that's always been a very small pool. The pool of second liens that are available has always been, maybe a fourth, a fifth the size of the firsts. But if you start thinking back over the last 6-7 years since everything happened in 2009, been a lot less seconds created. Yes, I get it. There's some stuff created in California, Arizona, Nevada, some of those other areas where the properties have rebounded back. But for the most part, that pool has gotten a lot smaller to fish in. And I get phone calls, emails from second lien investors all the time. Hey, do you have any? Do you see any? Where do I find them? And I'm always amazed that, listen, you've got to change what you're focused on. Otherwise, you're going to be investing in something that you can't find. And that's what we call Bigfoot investors. Bigfoot investors are people that are looking for something that doesn't exist. I would also throw in people that call me looking for 100, 200 unit apartment complexes that they want to get cheap. Great, awesome. It's almost like a unicorn. If I were to find something like that, I'm going to take it down. I'm not going to send it to somebody else. So those are some of the basic marks. You got non-performing, performing. You also have people that like to create their own paper with owner financing, which is nothing wrong with that. You just have to keep in mind what's your strategy long term. If you don't mind holding on to that paper for 12 to 24 months, great, completely fine. But if your goal is to get your investment dollars back on that property, owner financing isn't really a smart thing to do, because most note buyers who are buying owner finance paper aren't going to buy your paper without a good 6 to 12 months of seasoning. They're going to want to see a good 8 to 10% interest rate on that note. They're also want to see really some good skin in the game from the borrowers of some sort, 5, 10%, not a $500, not $1,000 down. All right. So I see a lot of investors that get excited about creating paper. Oh, I'm going to offer owner financing and then sell my note off at the closing table. That doesn't really exist that much anymore. It does happen, but you're going to be taking a big discount off your note. And then the discount that investors are going to want to give you oftentimes won't cover what your cost of that property is, plus the rehab's not a good thing to do. So if you're going to create owner financing paper, what I would do is create a first and a second, get a 5 or 10% down payment from your potential borrower, have an 80% first lien, a 10, 15% LTV second lien, and offer up an 8 to 9% interest rate. Yes, 8 to 9%. If somebody can go get a 5% interest rate, let them go to the bank and go get it. You're not in the habit of giving away money. All right. If you offer owner financing and you're not going to hold somebody accountable for their credit or checking their assets and things like that, offer them up a 7 to 8% interest rate. Why? Because somebody later on is going to want to make somewhere at least a 10% return on their money, and you don't want to take too big of a discount off your note. Plus, having a first, a second, and then a down payment gives you some flexibility in case that borrower needs to go get, you want that borrower to go get refinanced out in case you put a balloon in your first lien. It gives you some flexibility that they can go get a loan at 80% or 78% of value, get the refinanced out, get your money back, and you're still carrying a 10% second or 15% second lien for cash flow. Now, that's a great strategy for you on that stuff, but it all comes down to finding the assets first and foremost. And so that's what we're talking about more so today is, hey, let's focus on your markets. Some of the great markets that I see out there, Michigan, Ohio, are two really strong states that used to be the kiss of death for note investors a few years back because there was so much available, but they're starting to appreciate. They're coming out of their funk. I think Ohio can thank LeBron James for coming back into the state. I mean, that if you look at the economic impact he had on Miami and what he's done for Cleveland and Ohio itself, it helps that Ohio State has won championship. It helped that the Cavaliers won a championship. It helps that Dan Snyder is putting close to $1 billion not only in downtown Cleveland, but he's also doing the same just north of there in Detroit, in Michigan. So lots of great appreciation going on. You've got great rental values. A little tip for anybody that's looking to invest and buy distressed assets in Detroit or even Cleveland, Columbus. Focus on properties that have a market rent rate of $500 or greater. That's one of the filters that we use. If we see it's below $500, it's usually in a rougher part of town, which means A, it's going to be rougher people collecting if you got to go and get them reinstated. And they're going to probably hit and miss, and you may end up losing your tires while you're out there collecting. Who knows? Don't want that. So that's a good filter for Detroit. And I think really Ohio in general, try to find something where the rent, if you're buying a note on a property, find out if the rent is higher than $500 a month. Market rent. Now, using Rent-O-Meter, Zillow-Meter, as assessment rents is a great way to do that. So those are two great states. Florida's always been one of my favorite, but Florida, I think the pot of gold, the end of the foreclosure rainbow that Florida has been for the few years past, along with being God's waiting room, has not evaporated up. It's just that a lot of demand is going into it. So while I do see a lot of deals falling in the Jacksonville, Florida area, I like that area. It's still kind of the lowest cost of living there in Florida. More and more people understanding that Florida's got some great opportunities there. Values have rebounded pretty much across the state. I would stay below, though, the $200,000 valued homes. Stay $200,000 of value because the higher valued homes are the ones that are going to drag out, be longer days on market. And especially the high-end condos, those markets have already started to drop based on some of the fourth quarter and first quarter projections of 2017. I am also a big fan of Missouri. I think Missouri, not Missouri, but Missouri is a great state. You've got two great markets there in Kansas City, Missouri, and then also St. Louis. Rent rates are great, kind of a lower entry point, but also kind of a fast foreclosure state. I think it's 90 days to foreclose there. So very desirable. A lot of California people are buying rentals in Kansas City and St. Louis to make things happen. And yes, I like Ferguson. Some people are like, but there's really only one area of Ferguson that got hit with those unfortunate protesters. I like Ferguson. It's right near the airport. You're driving down it. You got American flags. You got a lot of pride of ownership. I would buy in Ferguson all day. So, but anyway, St. Louis, Kansas City. You also have Columbus, Missouri, where the University of Missouri is at. Great area. Anytime you be around a major university, I think you're going to be okay in most of the areas. So we've talked about Missouri. We talked about Florida. We talked about Ohio, Detroit, or Michigan. Michigan's got a lot of great areas besides just Detroit. Grand Rapids and Ann Arbor, where the big house is at.
Not Flint.
Not Flint. Yeah, I got some people making some money in Flint. They're not on city water, though. That's the big key. They're not on city water. Another state that's really popular, South Carolina, is coming back strong. Got a little bit longer foreclosure time frame, like 12 months. So it's a little bit less than what you see in Florida, coming back strong there. North Carolina is also a strong market, faster foreclosure time frame in North Carolina. People ask about Georgia, Texas, Arizona, Nevada. Great states if you can find assets. Just expect to pay in the upwards of 65-70% of value because values are increasing, and those are fast foreclosure states. So people are going to ask all about other markets. Tennessee's not bad. Kentucky's not bad. Anything you're in the Southeast Conference part of the United States, you're going to probably do fine for the most part. I'm excited to be speaking next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow night, in Baltimore at the BWI Meetup Group. I want to thank Andy and Amy who run that group for having me come on out. Really looking forward to that great group. I think Maryland's a great market. Virginia's a good market. You do see a lot of stuff in the Baltimore market, so you just got to be careful on kind of a block-by-block basis. But it's what used to be really, really rough. As I would call the Wire neighborhoods, where the HBO's The Wire was filmed, has changed a little bit. Some of those areas have re-gentrified. So I just double check on a block-by-block crime level basis for you. Illinois can be a good state outside of Cook County. All right, I would not spend much time with Cook County. If you see all the crime and everything goes on there, a lot of murders. It's also difficult to foreclose. It's also difficult to evict in those areas, especially start getting into the cold times of the year. So, Calumet City made some plenty of money on other areas. Rockford, Aurora, that's where Wayne's World is. Wayne's World, woo, 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 woo. Party on from the Aurora Public Access Channel. It's going on like 30 years that the movie came out. Anyway, so there's a lot of great. Anybody have any questions about states?
Well, Gabe says, he is in Northern California. Scott Van Campen is in Michigan.
There you go, yeah.
Detroit is definitely on the way back. Major investments being made now, and people are moving back.
That's right.
And Kevin Davis said he'll see you there at the BWI meeting.
Often, great, Kevin. Look forward to meeting you there. Hey, Gabe, good to see you up there in Northern California. Hey, Scott, yeah, hopefully it's a little warm for you up in Michigan this morning there for you. So, look, if you're seeing something in your backyard, great. If you're in a state that has a lot of inventory, great. Good for you. I always recommend to people, though, try to look at 5 different states. Try to keep that in mind. Why 5 states? Well, because it gives you plenty of opportunity. It gives you a reason to learn other markets. It gives you a reason to be flexible. Where a lot of real estate investors or note investors have gotten burned is they focus just on one state, and then they don't look at other stuff, so they miss opportunities that could be great modifications, great REOs, great deed and liens in other areas in the nation. Whereas if they're investing across a state, heck, investing in another state is just the same thing as far as getting realtors and vendors and other things that take part in that. So markets can change, everybody. I mean, I've had to change. I used to invest in California. I used to buy a lot of stuff in Texas here. Over the last few years, those markets have changed. So I've had to adjust my focus. Another popular market that I didn't talk about a few minutes ago was contract for deeds. A lot of contract for deeds. A lot of note investors are buying contract for deeds because they're very similar to a note. More of I won't say an IOU. It's basically a contract for deed. Land contract is where you usually on lower valued assets of sub $70,000, sub $60,000 valued assets, where the owner, if I bought an asset and I have it, I can offer up on a contract for deed. It's like owner financing, whereas if Greg here is my buyer wants to buy this house. He puts a little bit of money down. I'll do a contract for deed where he won't get the property, literally the deed to the property, until he pays me off. So if Greg doesn't pay, I don't foreclose Greg. I just evict your ass. Okay?
No pay, no stay.
Exactly. And there's some great states out there that have fast eviction laws. Indiana, I meant to say that earlier, is a really great market to be invested in. It's gotten really hot with Indianapolis and Anderson and South Bend and Fort Wayne and West Lafayette, some of those cities in Indiana that people are investing in. Kokomo. Take me down to Kokomo. Made some money there. Fort Wayne. Anyway. Contract for deeds, great if you like the lower valued assets. You have to be very careful on there. There's a couple major players in the contract for deed market out there that sell a lot of them. If you're in the note business, I don't have to tell you who those are. You have to be very careful about making sure that they're not trashed out. That's one thing. If it's occupied, great. Usually often pretty easy to get reinstated, modified, get the borrower to repay again, because a lot of times the servicers that are on these contract for deeds just don't do a very good job in collecting. So, but those are great plays for cash flow to really help build your pipeline, how to build your residual income that comes in every month off of your performing assets that covers your bills, so you are kind of financially independent. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, Bill Webster, he asked, I have a chunk of money to invest with. I live in Washington State and it's very expensive.
Yep.
What would be the best for me?
Why don't we schedule a phone call? Is it Bill, he said?
Bill Webster.
Bill,
Yes.
why don't you drop me an email and we'll schedule a phone call to give you an idea on some things. Because I always like to talk, before I recommend somebody go out and do some different things, I always have a phone call to see what you're focused on. You know, Washington State, yes, is expensive. Oregon, the whole West Coast is expensive. Our buddy Cody Cox up that neck of the woods can vouch for that. You got to look at other states. So I would look at maybe the Missouri, Indianapolis areas as ways to get started. I'd always focus on, depending on how many hours you have a week to put into it. If you're working full time or if you're a full time investor, it's a different business model and game plan for you. So feel free to drop us an email at scott@weclosenotes.com, and Nicole will type that in there into the comments there. Feel free to drop me a quote.
Also, Brian Morris says Indianapolis is my market, and I would love to learn how to make money with notes here.
Well, Brian, then great. And if you're in the Indianapolis market and you want to learn how to make notes there, because I think Indianapolis is also a great pot of gold at the end of the foreclosure rainbow, you can drop me an email as well. And maybe you want to look at getting signed up for our next Note Buying for Dummies workshop that we have in just over a month away, right, everybody? Mm-hmm. February 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yes.
Excited about that. We'll probably have a couple 200 people on that thing, but we will focus on the Indianapolis market. I'm actually working on bringing in an expert for that actual virtual workshop. So if you're just drop me an email at scott@weclosenotes. We'll schedule a phone call with you, Brian, to talk about the Indianapolis market and how you can make money in your own backyard in non-performing or performing notes or contract for deeds.
That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Any questions?
And everything.
Awesome. How many comments we get there?
I have no idea. I can't.
You can't go back that far? That's fine.
Well, I can, but I'm not going to.
What other markets are you focused on, everybody?
Yeah.
Huh?
7 comments.
7 comments? It's not bad. Not that bad for a 11 o'clock
Yeah.
start. We got a little later start than normal, but trying to see things out.
I see some in Alabama whenever I do.
That's a
diligence.
great point there, Ryan. Alabama.
Birmingham.
Yeah, we definitely see a lot of stuff in Birmingham. I like Alabama more so along the coast, like Gulf Shores and Foley. Thing about Alabama is got to think about a year-long redemption period on their non-performing notes. If you foreclose, you've got about a year to evict. I mean, a year to really before you could resell that asset. Now, it's not saying you can't pay the borrower $500 to give up the redemption rights. It happens all the time. I'm not saying it's not a great spot if you got a reperformer. We've got one that just got reperformed in Birmingham just the other day. I would just focus on occupied assets in Birmingham, in Alabama for specifically, and try to stay away from rural areas. And this kind of goes for everybody here. Just because it's in a good state doesn't mean it's a great deal if it's in a rural area. And by rural, I say less than 10,000 people. Because why that? Well, your markets, if you don't have any rehabbers or any realtors that will drive out and look at the property, you sure as heck probably aren't going to have any buyers. So you got to make sure and check your average days on market when you're listing or talking to your realtors about pulling values and things like that. So
Michael Bender is in Florida, Illinois, and Missouri as the markets he's looking at. He also has notes he wants to sell.
Awesome, Mike. If you got some the performing or non-performing or owner finance notes, drop me an email. We can put you in touch with some people that may be able to help you take. If they're owner finance, we can help take them off your hands. If they're non-performing institutional notes, drop me an email. We'll be glad to talk with you and see what you got available.
Scott Van Campen says he's interested in Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, and Florida.
There you go.
And Michael is also interested in Florida and Texas. Illinois, Missouri, and Colorado are his markets currently.
Great. Colorado is a great market. I just don't see much stuff in Colorado. You've got the cross of Colorado, which is basically Fort Collins down to Colorado Springs and then Boulder and Denver. Almost just like the side of the cross there. There we go. 4 great markets, but I just don't see a lot of stuff in Colorado. All right. The one area you do see a lot of stuff is Pueblo. And unfortunately, it's a very distressed area. High unemployment. Now, don't get me wrong. I got a great buddy that lives in Pueblo that makes a lot of money on fix and flips and things like that down there. But you just don't see a lot of distressed notes in the Rocky Mountain High State, as we should say. Okay? Got a lot of friends there have green businesses in Colorado. Cash businesses I can't do much stuff with.
Michael asks, what markets do you suggest? I'm open to other markets as well.
Is this guy like Colorado and Illinois?
Yes.
Like I said before.
Yeah, Michael Bender, the same.
Yeah,
thing.
Michael Bender. I would look at Ohio. I'd look at Michigan. One of the things you should always look at is where other people are investing their money in, especially foreign nationals. Now, I've got several friends that, I even got some international friends that own 300, 400 properties in Michigan. You know, Detroit, they bought cheap. They're making $300, $400 a month on rents. They just bought these assets cheap, and they're turning out huge returns. Florida was like that way, where for every dollar spent, 40 cents of it at one point, if not 50 cents of it, was international money coming in and buying us assets cheap. You know, things have changed. I still think Ohio, Michigan's got some plenty of inventory there. Still leads the nation. Florida still has a lot of foreclosures. So look at your foreclosure trends and see what's going on with that, first and foremost. All right. What else, everybody?
That's it.
I love it. I love the interaction. Love the interaction. If you guys have enjoyed this, feel free to go ahead and hit share on your Facebook profile. Share this to your database. We try to help this as well, and also helps you spread the word. Give a little content out to your database on what note investing truly is.
Also, if they want to hear you talk about anything, any note nuggets, anything else, like if they have questions.
Oh, yes. If you have any questions, feel free to post those, ask those there. We're always glad to answer that. If it's getting this after the event, feel free to share it and ask the question on our Twitter handle at @OneScottCarson. On Twitter, we'll be glad to answer that either the following day or directly via that. What was that?
Sorry, Michael. He commented, Scott is the best. Beast.
Just not blue and furry like Beast from X-Men, all right?
I was thinking of Monsters, Inc. for some reason.
Monsters, Inc.?
Yeah.
Like Sully?
Sully. Not,
Ooh,
yeah.
John Goodman? Did John play that? That's a great show. You guys, it's January 2nd. 3rd now, sorry. January 3rd now. How many of you have huge expectations for this year, but don't know where to begin? Or want to accomplish big things, but need to have some direction on it? If you're feeling that way, hey, check out our first virtual workshop in a month. Or if you've been through the virtual workshop, and that's great and it's helped you, but you really need to get your butt kicked, then you might want to check out our fast track training, which we have in 3 weeks, the 21st and 22nd. And what's all involved with the fast track? Come and spend in Austin 3 days with us. Trust me, when you walk out of here, you'll be like this, like drinking out of a fire hydrant with what we spend and focus on as far as making sure your marketing is rock and roll. Make sure you got a game plan down. Make sure you got vendors. Make sure you got sources. Make sure you know what the heck you're focused on. And so that might be something to think about. Besides the fast track, you get some other bonuses. You're in the mastermind for a year, and that's really where you want to hang out with. It's an amazing fraternity of rock star note investors who are making things happen all across the country and really creating win-win-win scenarios for everybody. So for those that are looking for our next masterminds, is going to be the end of March, first part of April, I think March 31st through April 2nd. We may have to bump it a week just in case, but That's what we're tentatively looking right now for hotels and meeting spot here in Austin. But our next fast track, like I said, is in 2.5 weeks, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. So if there are not any other questions or comments,
Nope.
we look forward to seeing you guys there. Like I said, feel free to drop us an email at scott@weclosedonuts if you have any questions, comments, concerns.
Other note nuggets.
Yeah, any other note nuggets you'd like to see us cover. Topics we'd love to start getting feedback from you guys on things that you'd like for us to cover on these note nuggets, note closer videos for you guys that we host daily. So otherwise, have a great Tuesday, and we'll see you guys at the top and see you tomorrow morning. Bye, everybody.